this is really not well. And they look at it like, is that normal? I'm like, no, you normally look like that when you bleed. And they're like, they're freaked out, but they feel, man, I feel like so much better. And so we kept doing these treatments on him. And about the 4 month mark, he comes to me and he says, I'm going to go on vacation for the first time in over a decade. And we're going to go on a cruise to Alaska. Thanks. You saved my life.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Integrative Health Podcast with Dr. Jen. Today, we're going to be talking to an herbalist and acupuncturist all about Lyme, mold, and talk a little bit about NASA. So today, we're going to be talking to Greg Lee. He's the founder of Lyme Research and Healing Center. He specializes in uncovering hidden factors like infections, toxins, and inflammation that disrupt thyroid health and metabolic function. For over 30 years, he's helped over 1,000 patients heal faster using advanced evidence-based functional medicine strategies. Now, before he became a natural medicine practitioner, he was a NASA systems engineer working on robotics, space station, and climate projects. And this high-stress environment triggered his own health crisis, irritable bowel syndrome, which conventional medicine couldn't resolve. After healing himself with acupuncture and natural remedies, he shifted his career to help others overcome their chronic health challenges. Currently, he practices at his clinic in Frederick, Maryland, and he uses advanced electrical scanning to identify underlying infections, toxins, and inflammatory cytokines. So we're so excited to have Greg here today. We're going to dig into a lot of stuff. Welcome to the podcast, Greg.
Hey, Dr. Jen, I'm so happy to be here with you. Thank you for having me on.
Yes, of course, of course. And now you are kind of in Lyme Central, so I'm super excited to talk about that. But first, I want to hear about your journey from going from NASA, being an engineer, to now natural medicine practitioner. That's kind of a big jump.
Yeah, you tell me about it. Well, we worked on these projects where we would have like astronauts in the space shuttle and they would be controlling robots in our lab, and we would be like preparing for these experiments and getting them, executed, like sometimes like 3 a.m. So we'd be up like 24 hours straight, like working on these. And after many of these, it began to like, man, I just not as, as strong, or I can't like last. I was like basically burning out at the young age of 29. So,
But this happens so much. This is so common.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, I was doing martial arts, I was doing sports, and then it was just like, I don't know what's going on with me, man. So that was like the beginning of like when I said, okay, I need to go to a doctor, and he diagnosed me with irritable bowel, and he gave me medication, and it gave me the worst brain fog. Like I go to work and I couldn't think, and I began to fall behind on deadlines, and I was just like, holy, I'm gonna lose everything because I can't work, and it's just freaking me out. I got insomnia, I got anxiety, and in addition to my bowels, saying in the middle of a meeting, we got to go now. You can't stay here. So I'd have to shoot out, and people were like, "What's going on, man?" Fortunately, a colleague of mine suggested, "Why don't you try acupuncture?" And I was just like, okay, I'll try anything. Because my uncle, he actually used to work for what was called the OSS in World War II. And he used to sting himself with bees, like bee sting therapy for his arthritis. And I was like, I never liked bee stings. I thought, oh man, get away from me. But now that I have my own health issues, I was just like, okay, Uncle King, I'm going to do it, man. So my acupuncturist, she taught me like, hey, when you eat certain things, that's going to affect your symptoms. So, oh, duh, I got to change my diet. Oh, I got to get better rest. I got to take the remedies to get better. And within several months, most of my symptoms got better. And it was just like, oh my gosh, such a relief going from like the lowest part of my life to like feeling, 90, 95% better. And it was just hit me that, wow, that was amazing. I didn't think much of it until a year later, my symptoms started to come back. And I was just like, no, don't, going through burnout, going through all the symptoms. It's like, I can't deal with that. And so it hit me, go help other people to heal. like I was helped with my acupuncturist. So I gave up I was a manager in a robotics lab at the time. And my colleagues were like, "You are nuts. You're going to go study acupuncture. Are you crazy?" And I just said, "Okay, I'm doing it." And so what happened was I gave up my job and studied acupuncture and herbal medicine. And then opened, and since I was an engineer, I was like, let's deal with some real complex issues. Started with chronic pain patients, fibromyalgia, then they turned to fibromyalgia patients, then they turned to Lyme patients, and then it's been Lyme, chronic infection, autoimmune patients have just been who I've been working with the most.
Absolutely. Well, it's hard to niche down because usually the co-infections are the root cause of these kind of garbage bag diagnoses like irritable bowel syndrome, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, and that's what's so frustrating. But I understand like where you're coming from because when you're so science rooted, from undergrad or graduate courses, from all of it, and you're in the lab, you're doing studies, you think that you have a problem and a medication is going to fix it, or there's one solution and it's outside of like the root cause and you changing what you're doing and you changing your environment. So it's kind of like an aha moment. And most of us that do what we do now in the alternative space, we've all had issues that conventional medicine hasn't helped. And we knew enough to know that it doesn't make sense to not actually feel better. Like you were saying, you got that awful brain fog because they were just band-aiding your irritable bowel syndrome.
Yeah.
So it's so great that you came over to the other side like many of us have. And isn't it crazy now because you want to like shake people and be like, wake up, but they can't until they go through it.
Well, unfortunately, people have to suffer some level of pain and struggle before they say, okay, it's not working. I gotta try something else.
Yeah. Yeah. And you were saying you were pulling all-nighters and all that stress. And, I tell patients that stress has such a big impact on our gut health and then our gut health on, everything, hormones, cortisol, thyroid, immune system. And the stress can also be from silent infections or stealth infections like Lyme. So let's talk about how you got involved in the Lyme space. I know you're kind of seated at a really good, not a good area, I guess a bad area for Lyme, but how did you get interested in treating Lyme?
Well, my chronic pain patients have then as I mentioned, I got the fibromyalgia patients. The subset of the fibromyalgia patients that were the most challenging to get better were actually Lyme patients. And at the time, this is like, 20, more than 25 years ago. There wasn't a whole lot of natural medicine remedies or research. So what I did was I looked at the Chinese medicine research on spirochete diseases like leptospirosis and found herbals and other remedies that were effective for people with these spirochete infections. And that putting those together in like herbal formulas really helped them to, resolve persistent symptoms and recover faster than just antibiotics alone. And that's where it kind of all started. And, being a geeky, researchy kind of engineer, it's like, well, there's got to be more. So then it went into like essential oils. And what we do, I studied with a naturopath who actually knows the French system where they use essential oils internally. So what we do is we take those oils and then one of the I was at a conference with Dietrich Klinghardt, and he was talking about doing microencapsulation of herbals. And I thought, well, I should be able to do this with essential oils. So one of our remedies that's really a game changer for many of our neuro Lyme patients is putting the essential oils encapsulated into microparticles, liposomes, and then patients take that and we get a much greater delivery through the blood-brain barrier into the nervous system for clearing their neurological infections. So,
Oh, that's really cool.
yeah.
Yeah. And this is all like outside the box stuff. And a lot of people, they try to, you know, give a battery of antibiotics for Lyme. And from what I've seen, that does not help. I try to tell patients, we got to get your immune system booted back on first, because our immune system can really take care of a lot of these infections. It's when our immune system is just down, down for the count, kind of like a computer when it, I don't know, maybe this is dating me, but remember, like, it would come on and it would be like a frowny computer, like upside down, because it needed a reboot. It was totally dead. So that's what
Yeah.
our immune system needs.
Yeah. Speaking of that, we're looking at how do we retrain the immune system using different acupuncture treatments. I studied with a Dr. Solomon on his treatments for like alpha gal. And so in theory, what I kind of surmised from his training is that you're retraining the immune system, especially focused around the liver and mast cell activation to lower that reactivity. And then he has one study where he's had a 94% success rate with alpha gal in a peer-reviewed study. So that was what caught my attention. I was just like, alpha gal patients, they're, especially now it's warming up. We're expecting many more cases, coming in.
Yeah, could you dive in a little deeper to what alpha gal is and how we get it? And I think the biggest thing, like, talk about, like, why now? Like, why are we seeing this a lot in the past few years? It's like booming.
So alpha gal is a sugar that's found in animal products, dairy products, and that certain ticks, actually there was a recent study where they found now the black-legged, Lyme tick can also transmit alpha gal. In addition, before it was just the other tick,
The
the
Lone Star.
Lone
Yeah, because
Star.
we have so many freaking Lone Star. We just moved to Tennessee and we just pick them off my cats like all day long. And my son finally got one on him. So we're sending it in and he's like, am I going to get alpha gal? I'm like, no, because I'm going to give you some herbs and immune support and gut support. I'm like, you're not going to get that. Don't say that.
Good mom, man.
Yeah.
So
I was on it. I was like, oh, well, we knew moving here, but anyway, yeah. So now they're finding it in even more ticks. I mean, there's a lot of like conspiracy theories out there about alpha gal. I mean, I think it's a little weird that poof, all of a sudden we have this and identify it. And from my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can only test the person for alpha gal. There's no testing for the ticks that are carrying it, correct?
well, all ticks, it's some saliva compound in those ticks, which then triggers the immune system, become allergic to alpha gal. Not everybody who gets bit by a Lone Star tick or a black-legged tick develops it. So it's really unique to the person and their immune system and reactivity. And it's just a matter of how do we calm that immune reaction down. And so this training I got was using this different ear acupuncture points has been helpful for a significant number of patients. So
Is that the seeding? Are you using seeding, like the
you're using
seeds in
a
the ears?
really tiny, what are called intradermal needles. They're about a millimeter, maybe 2 millimeters long, and they sit in the ear anywhere for up to like 3 weeks. And it's been really good, but doesn't always work with every patient. But as I mentioned, that one study that got me to take the training was a 94% efficacy rate.
Yeah,
So
no, that's specific for alpha gal. Is that
yeah,
helping with that training with other symptoms, like with Lyme and the immune system also?
we also treat other allergies because obviously, our patients are more immune reactive. And so it does help them with their seasonal allergies or food allergies. And that's what we're seeing using this treatment. They are also changing their diet and avoiding the triggers as much as possible. And in the training, they talked about different people who had alpha gal. They get treated, and then they go eat the trigger food, and they don't have the anaphylactic reaction like they normally do. They don't have any reaction in some cases. So that's what got me like all over it.
Yeah, is that one of the favorite things that you do, the auricular acupuncture?
It's one of the things in our toolbox, and we do lots of other therapies like molecular hydrogen therapy for like mast cell activation patients. They'll be inhaling it, and that really calms down, lowers histamine, lowers mast cell activation. It's also great. There's another ILADS doc who uses it in her IV clinic in Chicago, And she said that on Parkinson's patients, Parkinson's symptoms just go away when they're on the hydrogen.
Wow.
So
Okay. Let's break that down a little bit more. And how we jump from Lyme to mast cell is a lot of the times that they're related, and POTS and overactive immune system and sympathetic system overdrive. So your body's freaking out because it's like, hey, like I have this infection. The immune system is not reacting to it properly. I'm freaking out. I need help. Pay attention to me. And then you go to conventional medicine and they just label you with diagnoses. And sometimes, I mean, cromulin would help. That's conventional, but a lot of the times it's just not helpful, right? So that's why we're talking about alternative routes and treatments. Now, could you explain this molecular hydrogen therapy to the listeners out there?
So it takes, we have a lab here where we get purified water, and basically you put it in the hydrogen generator. It breaks apart the hydrogen and oxygen. The patient breathes it in at a sub-explosive level, so you're not going to have spontaneous human combustion or anything like that. And when the hydrogen is such a small molecule, it goes right into the tissues, right into the blood-brain barrier, right into the nervous system. Like I had a woman from Calgary. She works in an integrative clinic, and I'm like, you can get everything that I have here. Why are you here? And she goes, my brain fog is really bad. IVs aren't touching it, remedies, medications. Put her on hydrogen. In 30 minutes, she goes, my brain fog is 50% better. In an hour, my brain fog is 80% better. So now she does hydrogen therapy with her patients. She does it when she goes home. She's not tired anymore. She can be a mom. She can take care of her family versus just crashing, because it's such a great detoxifier and it drains inflammation quickly out of the brain.
Awesome. So what would it look like if someone's like, wow, I want to try this? And how how often do you have to do it? Does like the positive benefits, does it last? How does it work exactly?
So my patients that are really chronically infected, inflamed, and toxic, they'll buy their own generator and do it at home. And it's kind of like my own self-care routine also. So I'll do it in the morning or I'll do it at night because it is calming and settling for the nervous system. And I get deeper rest according to my, wearables when I do it. And that makes a huge difference in my mood also, is because I got better rest. I'm detoxing, and it's really simple, just putting a nasal cannula in and just breathing it for half an hour. And kids don't have a problem with it. It's really well tolerated. The only like people who have lots severe heavy metal toxicity, they'll sometimes taste the metals coming out of their mouth during it. And that's when we say, okay, let's back off. We're only doing short dose hydrogen therapy. But otherwise, it's one of our go-tos, especially mast cell and highly allergic patients.
Yeah, that's awesome. I tried it once at biohacking. Gosh, was it? Forget which one it was, but it felt really good. I only did it for 15 minutes. And I'm like, maybe we could add one of these to our home biohacking area, but not yet, but maybe in the future if I can convince my husband. So, but that's great. So that's something that you can do at home, get a unit at home, but maybe try it out in an integrative office first, or see how well it works for you. Have you noticed it works better for some people? Because a lot of therapies are like that. Some people are like, wow, it's amazing. And some are like, didn't really notice.
Yeah, I had one patient, chronic Lyme's. He had a lot of detoxification mutations in his genetics, so he really couldn't detoxify, and that's why he kept, getting benefit from coming in for treatment. And he decided he's going to, buy his own unit. And this is right before COVID hit. And he had severe lung congestion when he got COVID, his wife also. And he said to me later, if I didn't have that hydrogen unit, I'd be dead. And they have they have videos and also studies in like respiratory journals about hospitals in Asia using hydrogen therapy on, really congested, severe COVID patients, and it really clearing out a lot of that congestion, sometimes within hours. And they're reporting like as much as a 70% improvement with just using the hydrogen therapies. So,
Well, we definitely won't be seeing that at a hospital anytime soon then. I'm just kidding.
well, if we have someone
It's
who wants to have an
great.
alternate hospital, I'm very happy to talk and,
Right.
Cut out.
Right. Yeah. If any, venture capitalists are out there, just maybe we could get something started. Yeah. I mean, it would be amazing if we actually worked with our bodies, right? But this is the good thing. You guys can take control of your health and do a lot of these things at home. Now, you were talking to me about how you live really close to where Dr. Shoemaker, which is like the goat of mold protocols. You
Right.
had his office was really close to yours. So you kind of got all these mold patients. So tell us a little bit about mold and how it correlates with Lyme.
Right. So when we get mold patients, we want to know, what kind of mycotoxins they have, all if we can, what kind of species. And, you can do the like testing for metabolites, but we use a advanced scan. It uses electrical frequency, so we can determine that in the office. Like we can scan for over like 30 different mold species and about 40 mycotoxins. And then we get a sense of, is it aspergillus, is it ochratoxin? And then based on that, we can custom formulate remedies that are researched, whether it be supplements that actually can bind to or have efficacy against that kind of toxin. And then we custom formulate those for patients, often into what are called microparticles, because that'll get deeper in the tissues where, mycotoxins get often sequestered in cells. So we want to be able to get penetrate in and get those out. And that's part of our strategies that we use for the, since Dr. Shoemaker closed his clinic, we are seeing, I'd say, probably 60% of our patients are mold patients, at least Lyme mold or just mold themselves. And then in addition to that, we use a frequency specific microcurrent. There's mold detox frequencies. I think it's like 2395, and there's like 97 or 98 that we use. And according to Dr. McMakin, who's one of the leaders in the industry, those are what she uses and sees efficacy for mycotoxin detox. So in addition, there's lots of other anti-inflammatory and other frequencies, but those are how we are able to get like a lot of our patients that we scan for often have sinus mold mycotoxins, and we can direct those frequencies into like the different sinuses or different regions of the brain to see if we can reduce the mycotoxin inflammatory load in those areas.
Exactly. And how would you say that eliminating mold and mycotoxins, how it can kind of accelerate Lyme healing?
Oh yeah, it's like you're exposed to this toxin every day through whatever exposure or, periodically. It's just going to slow down the progress because your body needs to detoxify it. That's your immune system, and it gets overtaxed. You start lowering that burden, and then the immune system can say, hey, now I can start to deal with these other things like infections and co-infections and parasites and viruses and whatever else is there, heavy metals. Now that this mycotoxin, we also look at like oxalates in our scan, because a lot of our patients, even though they've been through the Shoemaker protocol, they often have high levels of oxalates. So they need some sort of oxalate detoxification through using different supplements and remedies to get those out. And that also helps increase their improvements in their health.
Yeah, it's like an onion. You're just peeling back these layers, and it can be very complicated, but this is why, alternative medicine is so helpful, because you're actually getting to the root cause and pulling out that root. We all know if you just snip off the top, the weed's going to grow
The
back.
weed grows back.
Yes. Yeah.
You gotta rip it all
Yeah.
out.
What is it? Burdock at our old home in Ohio. There were these, which burdock can be, good. It can be used, the
Yeah,
burdock root
the herb.
for different herbs. Yeah. But I'm telling you, like, you just can't get that root out. And it's so deep in there. So sometimes it might feel frustrating like that. Like you're trying all these things, you're not getting as better as fast as you think you should be. But this could have started in your childhood, some of these things with a tick bite or a mold exposure in a dorm room in college. And then your body is very resilient and it's just doing its thing, trying to survive. And then you have one other exposure or a stressful job, and that kind of puts you over the edge. So that's why it's great that, we can really get down to that root cause with all of these different strategies and testing. So it's great. Now,
Yeah.
you also use peptides in your practice. Do you want to discuss
Love,
what your
love.
favorite peptides are? Yeah.
Well, there's the Pepti Strong from Dr. Andy Franklin. He's got the AI and he's discovered over 6 million plant peptides. And so and he's coming out with I think there's one or two others that he's coming out with soon. So we use that and also KPV. We use a lot of KPV, BBC, CMAX. What else? Those are kind of the ones off the top of my head that we use. TB4, thymosin beta 4. Those are the main ones that come to mind for our patients. So, and
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and Pepti Strong. So this one's great because I like to pair it with patients that maybe they are losing muscle mass and we really need to stabilize that. And these AI derived plant peptides, as you were talking about, Greg, how they're AI derived, and they have all of these just kind of sitting at their fingertips that they found, but they're testing them. So they're only coming out with so many per quarter or per year. So that's an exciting, just an exciting space for peptides to be watching. And then you mentioned KPV and BPC 157, both great for gut health, which the gut health is really what is struggling with so many patients.
I've actually had some mast cell activation patients that would go into anaphylactic shock when I gave them the KPV. When I gave them the KPV, then when they would eat their trigger foods, they didn't go into anaphylactic shock. It stopped it. So it was like amazing for, I use it all now. There's a KPV PEA from Healthgevity that really, they have also an uptake compound in there that really helps just stabilize mast cells best. So
Wow, so you gave oral KPV and it stopped their allergic reaction?
like overnight. So
Wow.
no more kid to the ER visits and things like that. So the parents are like, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. There's so many different things out there. I was reading some studies about how vagal nerve stimulation, that they used to use that to cut down asthma attacks. And they would use that in the hospital. And I'm like, why don't we use that in the ER now? Because you're activating that parasympathetic system. And anyway, yeah, if I could open up a hospital using all of these techniques, it would cut hospital stays down, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's great. And then you said CMAX, so you're using that for the neuro effects in your brain fog Lyme patients that you're seeing.
Yep. So yeah, we use nasal delivery on that one. And that
Yeah.
really helps get it more directly into the brain, nervous system. So that's been really a game changer for some brain fog Lyme patients. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's just, like you said, it's another tool in the toolbox. All
Yep.
that will help. Now, you also, it piqued my interest to hear that you treat a lot of thyroid dysfunction too. So tell us, maybe if you have some case stories, or tell us a little bit what you do with thyroid health.
So we have one patient comes to mind. He's a local farmer and he went to Hopkins 37 times over, 9 years.
That's a really specific number. I love that. 37.
That's what he told me. So I was like, I believe you. And, he had been diagnosed with, over a dozen different issues and given many medications, and he just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And so eventually, if farmers, they're kind of like, I'm going to get up and, do what I need to do and push through it. But he got to the point where he's the head of his farm. He couldn't add two numbers up in his head. And he's like doing the books and all this stuff. So it got to the point where he goes like, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to live this way anymore. He told his wife, I want to just end it all. And she goes, you're not going to end it all. You were going to go to this new place I found. So she brought him in and he brought me all the test results from Hopkins. And I was just like, okay, that's good. And then we scanned him and we found three things that Hopkins had missed. One, he had aspergillus in his sinuses and multiple mycotoxins that were just like in his brain. And obviously that's going to create havoc with thinking and inflammation and all sorts of other, downstream effects. He had Clostridia in his gut, which was creating a lot of, SIBO-like conditions, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, digestion problems, and then you have the gut-brain, communication that gets disrupted. And he also had a tick-borne infection called brucellosis, which is like Bartonella. And one of the, you get lots of inflammation, especially in the lymphatics. So he was basically had three things that were not being addressed. And so we started him on peptides. We started him on detoxification. And we have actually a reflexologist in our office that does amazing work with opening up the lymphatics and the drainage. So he was like all over that because he could feel a difference just after getting that kind of treatment in his sessions. Frequency specific microcurrent. We initially program it for like detoxification and drainage, but as those, pathways get open, then we start going after, the mold mycotoxins in the sinuses, the Clostridium in his gut, the brucellosis in, the different areas we found it or systemically. And so what he kept, and also we do kind of like an out there radical treatment called cupping. And we're actually pulling out toxic blood out of patients. And we pulled that out of him. His was not like normal blood. It looked like jello. It was like,
Yeah.
it was just so coagulated. And
Stagnant. Yeah. Ugh.
that's what we were also seeing a lot in post-COVID patients, which have the
Yes.
elevated hypercoagulation. You do this extraction and it's like, this is really not well. And they look at it like, is that normal? I'm like, no, you normally look like that when you bleed. And they're like, they're freaked out, but they feel, man, I feel like so much better. And so we kept doing these treatments on him. And about the 4-month mark, he comes to me and he says, I'm going to go on vacation for the first time in over a decade. And we're going to go on a cruise to Alaska. Thanks. You saved my life. And so he says, if you want to tell anybody, I'm happy to talk to anybody. You can give my name and number, and I'm happy to tell them all the stuff that you did. And that was, one of the patients that also had severe thyroid issues because of the toxicity from the mycotoxins that were also in his thyroid. And so as we started to really detox, we sent you can do a frequency specific microcurrent, as I mentioned, 2395, but also there's a thyroid frequency of 98. And you pair those together, you can really start to detox out the issues in there, lower the inflammation. There's an anti-inflammatory frequency of 40. And that was really helpful for restoring a lot of his thyroid function. In addition, he also took some glandulars, thyroid glandulars to really help support the healing and energy in that system.
Oh, I
So
love it. That's so beautiful that you were able to help him. That's great. And that it's sad though, like he was so desperate when he came to you. Don't you wish sometimes that you're just like, can I get someone that just maybe has like one thing wrong, but otherwise they're healthy and we can optimize them instead of like getting these like, ooh, like they're so sick, because that happens a lot by the time people come to see us, right?
I'm just committed to rest. I feel like what I'm doing is more rescue medicine. And then if later on, then they can do the maintenance and stuff like that. But I usually don't get the patients that are like, I got bit by a tick yesterday. Can you help me? It's just like, I live in Lyme, Connecticut, and then it's like usually you get the 3-ring binders of tests and lab results that they bring in and the
Oh yeah.
bags of supplements and it's it's just overwhelming for these people. And so we try to make it as clear and make a quick path to fastest path to recovery as we can. So
Right, absolutely. No, that's
yeah,
great. It's interesting you brought up like Johns Hopkins. So I had someone that they were at Cleveland Clinic and they were post-cancer treatment, blood cancer. And I was like, there's something fishy. There's something going on. And I'm like, I think it's mold. And we tested high mycotoxins. They found mold all in their house, like all along the chimney line. There was a leak. So it was in the living room where they were at. And they showed the results to the oncologist. The oncologist was actually kind of interested. He was like, oh, like, this is a real lab that a PhD runs. And we're like, yeah, like this isn't, voodoo, like this isn't woo woo. Like, come on, this isn't like, we're not doing crazy stuff here. This is science. And it was really interesting because when he was sent home after the chemo, they're like, you have to wear a mask while you're mowing the lawn because we don't want you getting mold spores and breathing them in. And I'm like, but you don't check mycotoxins, but you don't see if they're living in a home with mold. I did a podcast a couple weeks ago and with the founder of the dust test, and like 50% of homes have mold in them.
yeah,
And this is suppressing your immune system. So say you live in a house with mold, you get bit by a tick, your immune system's already freaked out. It's going to freak out more as opposed to getting bit by a tick and your body just takes care of it. They take, I mean, it's just, it's a little frustrating, right? I mean, we need more awareness about all of these issues. And that's why we're here talking, right? To bring more awareness. So
of
it's
course.
good.
One of the things that since I'm in a research facility here, one of the other researchers is looking at cold plasma for actually wound healing. And there's multiple studies on how it kills mold species, detoxifies mold toxins. So we're kind of talking about would it be possible to use that to get it into, spaces that are totally, and get rid of the mold through a more or less invasive method where you don't have to rip everything out and stuff. But
Ooh,
that's kind of the
that's really
conversations
cool.
we have here. So
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's all the, some use chemicals, some use the dry blasting. And then I think you just got to rip it all out. It's so
yeah, in
hard.
many cases, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And sometimes it hides and sometimes mold inspectors still don't find it until a patient's renovating a house. That just happened to one of my patients and it was in their bedroom. And you just have to be aware and know that this is something that can happen instead of just being, ignorance is bliss, nothing's going on. So we're not trying to stress anyone out, but more so empower you, and also that there are different methods and modalities to heal from these insults.
yeah. And there's, people like Dr. Jen, who obviously has a wealth of knowledge, can guide people, through these challenges, and it takes a team because, we have actually patients that are mold sniffers. So like they'll go into a place and like I went into this office and they're like, oh, there's no mold in here. And so I was like, great, I'm moving in. They're going to other places and they're like, no, don't go, don't do that. So
That's so cool. I know there's a dog. Someone sent it to me on my Instagram. There's like this dog that you can hire and it can go to your home and go right to the mold if there is any. Have you seen that?
I saw an article on it. I thought it was really cool. I was like, I need to get a dog like that.
I know. I'm like, I should train a dog for this or train my kids. Yeah. Well, but we can all smell it. So I think that's like the big thing. Like those people are really fine tuned when it's really subtle. But if it smells musty, like my kid's old preschool, like you can smell it. They had someone inspected and just got a few plates in there. And I'm like, you can smell it. If you can smell the must, that's VOCs. There's mold. You just got to find it. But yeah, so that's one thing. And I tell my patients, you're out mulching, you're outside, there's going to be mold, you're going to be exposed to most mold, but it's the bad black mold, the mycotoxins, it's living in it. That's when it settles into the sinuses, the lungs, into the gut, and that's when it's just causing havoc producing lots of mycotoxins in there. And then that's disrupting the immune system, and your body can't handle these stealth infections anymore.
Yeah, so that's why when we do the scan on patients, we look at what kind of mycotoxins we can also, it creates a computer model of the patient. Then we can also apply what like essential oils that have anti-mold top properties would be most effective against those in that patient. So we can actually measure remedy efficacy through our system. So it's just been really helpful to, find what works more quickly.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what I like about a lot of the techniques at your clinic is they're very gentle for kids, and they're gentle for those patients that need gentle. Because a lot of patients that are sick with mold, with Lyme, with co-infections, they need a more gentle approach.
Yeah. Usually it's like supplements that don't taste bad, or homeopathics that they can mix in applesauce or something like that. With our kids, we use a lot of German biological homeopathics with the Lyme kids, and helps them detox and get rid of their infections more quickly.
Yeah,
So,
that's awesome. Well, I love everything that you do. I'm glad you're not working for NASA anymore, because it seems like it's a little weird now anyway. I joke about that, but with the women going to space. Anyway, so I would love to hear where everyone can find you in Maryland and how people can become a patient of yours.
So we're in a research facility here in Frederick, Maryland, and you can find us on the web at lymeresearchcenter.com. Also, we have online communities. One is called Heal for Real, where we do weekly trainings. And this month, we're actually training on DMSO for Lyme arthritis and inflammation, CRPS, chronic regional pain syndromes, and how we are using that to really help patients get over those Lyme issues more quickly. So that's, you can contact us also at our phone. We use the old phone, 301-228-3764. And we look forward to talking to you. And we are taking new patients at this time. So happy to share and talk with anyone who's interested.
Oh, that's awesome, Greg. So glad you're taking new patients, and so glad that you are just really, you're in a research center. You are doing this the right way. We need brick and mortars out there. We really do need them still. So I think it's great. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing your expertise and knowledge with us.
Oh, it's been great. Thank you so much for having me.